Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagana, Jaya Jagana, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Ishi Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. Now it will be the Vortrag. How is it called? The lecture? Oh, here's here. Okay, here's our announcer, our moderator.
So, Hare Krishna, liebe Gäste, liebe Devotees, ein großes Willkommen zu unserem Sonntagsfestival hier im Krishna Tempel Zürich. Hare Krishna, dear guests, dear devotees, a big welcome to our Sunday feast in our Krishna Temple Zurich. Our Sunday program consists of a talk, which we're going to start now till 5 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock there will be a vegetarian meal, a feast. At 6:15 there will be a mantra meditation. At 7 o'clock a temple ceremony, and from 8 o'clock onwards there will be more kirtan, more singing of mantras. For today's talk we have here Her Grace Loka Pavani Mataji, and please welcome her with a big Hari Bol. She is a disciple of His Holiness Niranjana Maharaj. She's originally from Croatia, from Zagreb, and she moved here to Switzerland with her husband around 10 years ago, and she's been practicing the Krishna consciousness since 2008. She has several degrees, a law degree, an LLM degree in international humanitarian laws and human rights, and also in a diploma in peace studies. And she is engaged for many years now here in the temple in different services, especially with the temple shop, also here as a pujari, as a cook, and also in teaching Krishna conscious philosophy and practices, giving seminars, etc. And we are happy that she is here giving our Sunday talk on the topic of seeing Krishna everywhere. So with it, I wish you a very wonderful Sunday program. First, two things more. Please come a little forward so that we can have more space. And I'm going to ask about the translation. Braucht jemand eine Übersetzung ins Deutsche? Würdest du das machen, Manu? So, Manu Prabhu wird eine Übersetzung ins Deutsche geben. Jede Person, die das braucht, Manu Prabhu wird das dort in der Ecke machen. Die Personen, die eine Übersetzung bräuchten, können gerne sich dann dort hinsetzen. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, welcome to today's Sunday feast. So before we start, I would just like to ask if there's anyone new today here for the first time in our temple. Okay, welcome. Welcome. Okay, so before we start talking, we were going to sing a little bit, and then we will dive into topics of seeing Krishna everywhere. So in this lecture today, what I will give you is like some tips on what you should do to see Krishna, and also we will talk about how Krishna manifests according to the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, in everything that I mentioned, we can go deeper, but we don't have enough time, so maybe some things are just going to be mentioned, and we will not go very deep into them. But I will recommend books, so if you're interested, you can explore by yourself. So before we start, we'll sing.
We don't maybe clearly see.
Uh-huh.
Can I give you a smaller tape?
Like that? But then I don't. Yeah, smaller tape. Yes, thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Girivaradari Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalaka Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So again, thank you very much for coming and for wanting to listen about how to see Krishna. And when I was preparing this lecture, I was thinking, like, who am I to speak about seeing Krishna? Because, you know, I don't feel myself qualified. But and I cannot say that this Krishna that is here on the picture, that's the Krishna which is described in the scriptures. I never saw him like that, face to face. But I did have some realizations. That's one thing why I can say something a little bit about it. But the second thing why is because by speaking about Krishna, we are actually serving our spiritual masters. So it's the duty of the disciple to speak Krishna Katha. So out of duty, we do it, and also that we purify ourselves. So mostly it's for our benefit and for the benefit of audience, because what we speak is not ours, but it's given by Krishna and the spiritual master. So that's why we can speak about subjects like this. So I wanted to speak about Krishna, how we can see it everywhere, because people today, they only believe in what they see, and we will talk about that. And also devotees, they sometimes think that they need to see like Krishna like this in the picture, face to face. And when they don't see him, they get very disappointed. But the problem is that we don't know how to see, and we will talk about that today. So in order to see God and anything in this world, it's not just eyes that we need, because what is the value of the eyes? Because when there is no light, they cannot actually see objects around them. So if there is no sun, your eyes are not capable to see things around you. When there is night, if there is no artificial light or moonlight, again, you cannot see things around yourself. So it's very relative that what we see is actually some truth. And also when we see, it's not that we can see everything. For example, I don't know, ultraviolet lights, they always come to my mind. Like we know that they exist, but we cannot see them. There are some sounds we cannot hear, but animals can hear. So there are things that we cannot perceive by our senses. But today, in the modern educational system of this modern world, we gain knowledge in the universities, right? We gain in schools, we get a diploma, then we work, then we gain some experience. We also receive knowledge from the news and from, for example, material scientists and so on. And this is one of the ways to attain knowledge. But today we're going to talk about how to attain knowledge according to the Vedas. So they also accept this method of the world, but they also add some other stuff. And we will also discuss how it's a little bit different to gain material knowledge and spiritual knowledge. Why? Because material knowledge is just a lot of information that people give you, right? So when you go to school and when you pass your exams, you actually pass your exams according to a lot of information that you need to remember, and then you write. Of course, you have to be creative and use your intelligence, logic, and so on. But usually that's the way. But in spiritual knowledge is a little bit different. You cannot understand God with your own endeavor. Like, you were given intelligence by God, and we all have it, but it's not enough, and we will explain why is it so. So according to the Vedas, there are 3 ways of knowing things. First is called pratyaksha, direct sense perception. Then we have Anumana, logic and reasoning. And we can see that this is the way people acquire knowledge in today's world, right? So that's what we described. But we also said that even by direct sense perception, we cannot know everything. We also sometimes need some teachers or, I don't know, some experts in something that they explain things to us. But also how we acquire knowledge is through logic and reasoning, so using our intelligence and so on. And in the Vedas, they say there is a third way of how to acquire knowledge, and that is Shabda, hearing from the authority. So why do we need to hear from the authority? Because spiritual knowledge, the object of spiritual knowledge is God, right? And it's something transcendental, something that is very subtle, and something that cannot be seen by our eyes, cannot be perceived by material senses, and it's above logic and reasoning. So therefore, we need to hear from the authoritative sources. And authoritative sources are spiritual books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ishopanishad. There are so many books that Srila Prabhupada left us, and which were spoken by Krishna personally. So when we talk about, the title is Seeing Krishna Everywhere. When we say Krishna, we mean God. God has many names, but his name Krishna means all attractive, and God is attractive to everyone. So therefore, this is appropriate name for him. So we can know about him from spiritual books, because in the Bhagavad Gita, he personally speaks about himself, and we will see in which way, because we will mention some of the verses. And also there is Srimad Bhagavatam, where the great authorities and souls talked about Krishna. So that's also how we can understand and gain knowledge about God. And then we have spiritual teachers. So these are like pure souls, elevated souls, that through the practice in their lives have actually seen Krishna. But how did they see Krishna? They also went through the same process that we will describe now here. So it's possible for every one of us. But they have seen the truth. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, we should approach a spiritual master and serve him, because he will reveal the absolute truth to us, because he has seen the truth. So that's why we approach them. And everything that is written in the books, because they have realized and applied the knowledge from the books, then they can then easily give advice to us, like how we can apply it in our own life. And the third factor of gaining spiritual knowledge is Supersoul. So, does anyone know who is Supersoul?
God in the heart.
Yes. So it's something different. And God has many aspects in which we can perceive him. We can perceive him, some people perceive him as energy. That's one level, Brahman. The others perceive him as Supersoul, which means God in the heart. It's a partial expansion of God, which is situated in every living entity in this world, and as Bhagavan, as person. So when we talk about seeing Krishna here, we will talk about all the aspects, because they all pertain to the same personality, but with knowledge that actually who we want to see is Krishna, so as a person. But he can be revealed through all these other three aspects of himself. And today, as we said, the world teaches us to first see and then believe. But the Vedas are teaching us to first hear in order to see, and we will explain why. So we hear the knowledge, like for example today, what you're doing, you're actually practicing what we are going to talk about here. So you're going to hear something about Krishna, whether it's the application of how you can see him, what you should do, how you should practice spiritual life to see him, but also we will talk about him. So you will gain certain knowledge here through hearing, and this hearing actually broadens your vision of everyday life, and it enables you actually to see the things that you hear. And that's why it's only possible to understand transcendence through hearing, because we hear the knowledge and then we apply it in our life. We go through the certain spiritual practice. For example, in Krishna consciousness, we chant the Holy Name of the Lord, which is not here at the moment, the Maha Mantra. But we chant it every day, we read the books, we serve the deities, we will talk about that as well. So we do certain things, and we hear. Why do we hear also? To gain inspiration, to understand why we are doing. And in this hearing and doing things, we get realizations. And this is where the super soul comes in. So the super soul helps us to have realizations and revelations in our heart. And that's, in a way, mysticism of Bhakti Yoga. Because it is mystic. It's like, it's an experiment, because Bhakti Yoga is science. You have certain thesis that, I don't know, that you are a spirit soul and that there are certain spiritual activities. You hear the knowledge theoretically, and then you have certain practices by which you apply the knowledge. And so you experiment, and then you come to a conclusion. And the conclusion means that you have realizations, you gain love for Krishna, you understand that you are actually a spirit soul, and so on. So in that sense, it's science. But the experiment is a little bit different than in the modern science, because in modern science, everyone can come and can repeat, and then externally we can all see what happened, like what came from the experiment or what is the conclusion. But here, not so much. The real experiment happens in the heart. So it's something that you will realize. And there is a famous metaphor for it. Like someone can tell you how the pudding tastes and can describe the color, the flavor, the texture, I don't know what. But if you don't try the pudding, you will never know what the pudding is. So you got to taste it because it's food. So in the same sense, you have to taste spiritual life to understand what is spiritual life. You have to taste spiritual life to understand that you're a spirit soul. And you have to taste the spiritual life to see God. So, and this mysticism is mysticism just because it's in your heart, your realization, your seeing of the world. And people are on different levels of spiritual life. Of course, we have a spiritual master who is a pure devotee and who is exalted, and he can actually understand others and give advice. But we who practice, we sometimes don't know how much someone is advanced, how much someone sees things, and so on. So the object of spirituality is transcendence, as we said, to know absolute truth, Krishna, which by its nature is above logic and reasoning and can only be realized by revelation, which comes through practice of knowledge acquired by hearing. And here comes the super soul. So we said that super soul is Krishna situated in the heart of every living entity. And when the person starts to practice spiritual life, this super soul, which has certain functions, and I'm not going to go into the details about them, but if you want to know, you can find out in the Bhagavad Gita. This super soul has a function of giving knowledge to everyone. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15 that he is seated in everyone's heart, and from him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So basically, your knowledge is given by Krishna and the remembrance and forgetfulness. It's connected also with the karma and reincarnation as well, because as we enter to one body, we change bodies, let's say it like that, we forget because of the change of bodies. So this remembrance that is spoken here in the verse also pertains to that, that we are super soul, like induces us to remember certain desires by which we act in this life to fulfill them. But that's another story. But that's the function also of the super soul. But what's important for us today is that we can understand that super soul is the one who gives knowledge in the heart and also reveals the knowledge and gives us understanding of the spiritual life. Again, Krishna confirms this, and he says that those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So Bhakti Yoga is about the heart and developing love. And actually, the persons who can really see Krishna, as in the picture above me, like a cowherd boy who plays a flute in Vrindavan, which there are descriptions about it in Srimad Bhagavatam, so that's how God looks like. So people who have developed pure love towards him, they can only see him. So maybe some of us still didn't develop this love, and we need to practice. And then with this practice, Krishna gets pleased with our devotion, and then he gives us the understanding by which we can come to him. And one of the understanding is how we can see him in this world, because that inspires us in a spiritual life. Like, that gives you enthusiasm for the service. That's why you're chanting the rounds. So you get this little taste, little ecstasy that keeps you going, because spiritual life is not like you will have a realization overnight. It's a process that takes time. And again he says, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So he is the one who enlightens the spirit soul, and that's why we chant also. So by chanting the Maha Mantra, the contaminations that are in our heart. And what are the contaminations? The material desires we have gained through lifetimes and lifetimes. Because when we talk about all these things, we presume we understand what is karma and what is reincarnation. So all these things are accumulated in our heart, and chanting and hearing, it just removes the dirt. And that's why this knowledge is actually mercy of God, mercy of Krishna, and it illuminates our hearts. And that is the place where we can also see Krishna, and we will see in which way. So I have chosen this verse from the Bhagavad Gita as an example of how Krishna can describe himself. He says, the Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. So what do you think about this verse? Is it confusing? Is it contradictory a little bit? What would you can tell me what you think. There's no right or wrong answer, yes?
It sounds all-inclusive.
All-inclusive, yes. That's good. Someone else? But you would agree that, like, when you think about it logically, it's a little bit bewildering. So this is an example of how you cannot perceive the absolute truth by reason and logic. I mean, how can you? It's like totally contradictory. Like, he's here, but he's not here. He's within, but he's without. So he also says in the Bhagavad Gita that he has nothing to do, but still he does everything with the creation of the material and the spiritual world maintenance and so on. So in order for us to understand Krishna in this way, how he explains himself, we need, as we said, spiritual teachers and also other books, commentaries and so on, so we can understand, right? So that's why this process is the hearing. And then I hear, and in my life, when I practice, I actually start to understand. And Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book. You cannot just read it once and put it on the shelf. It's a book you read your whole life. I have read Bhagavad Gita certainly more than 20 times. And every time I read Bhagavad Gita, I find out something new. So it's about consciousness. Our consciousness develops in spiritual life. Every day the consciousness is different, especially in spiritual life if you advance. And then you see things from different perspective. And that's how you can actually see God. And I think it's wonderful because God is a perfect being, absolute truth, who created everything. He's within everything and without also. He's in our hearts, but he's still a person, and there is this energy and so on. So it has to be complicated because he has to be the most brilliant person that exists, that can bewilder you, surprise you, make you doubt, and so on. That's his play also in a way. And that's why he's so attractive, because he has everything for everyone, and otherwise he wouldn't be God. We cannot be God because we don't have everything for everyone. We are very limited. And it is said that in our hearts there is a super soul, as we said, and our soul. The soul can know only this body, but the super soul knows all the bodies. And we're talking about trees, animals, and so on. So, even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, hear from me. Tachtrinu. So that's in Sanskrit, which I don't know very well, but sometimes I can quote it. So he says that, now hear, O son of Pritha. So he says to Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So he says, to know me in full, you have to hear from me. And I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So just by hearing from Krishna, and you can all hear from Krishna if you read Bhagavad Gita, you can understand phenomenal knowledge, which means what is within our scope of understanding, because Bhagavad Gita talks about the material world and how everything functions. And when you start to read Bhagavad Gita, then actually if you go into your ordinary life, you can see how it's true, how there are really modes of nature, how people interact in this way, in that way, and how actually everything Krishna talks about makes sense. But he will also talk about numinous things, which are beyond our scope of understanding. And this is the process, how to understand them. We hear, we constantly hear. We don't understand anything, it doesn't matter. We hear, we hear, we hear. Srila Prabhupada, who is sitting here on this Vyasasan, who gave us all these books and translated them into English language, he said that he would sit in the lectures of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And I tried to read the Brahma Samhita, which is one book spoken by Brahma, Lord Brahma, but the commentaries were given and translation was given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And I can't understand anything. So we are very lucky, actually, that Prabhupada came, and in a simple language, it's amazing how he explained everything. Because when you get into the books a little bit, and then you start reading the previous acharyas in previous centuries, which is a difficult language in a way, and it's also Sanskrit and so on, you can see how Srila Prabhupada understood absolutely everything, and he made it simple for us. And he, to go back to the story, when he approached his spiritual master and when he was listening to his lectures, he would say also that, I don't know, that he didn't understand anything, but he was very eager to hear. And so this is where this super soul comes. So you have this soul that is very eager to hear, very enthusiastic to hear, but doesn't understand. And still he's there and he's sitting. And that's the mercy of Krishna. He gives the understanding. So he gave understanding to Krishna, he gave understanding to Srila Prabhupada, actually how to come to the West and explain everything to us. And also to understand his spiritual master. So if you very carefully read Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's books, you can understand how Srila Prabhupada was a genius, because only a genius can make something complicated very simple for everyone to understand. So, what do you need to do to see Krishna first? Yes. Yes. But it's not enough just to hear this lecture, for example. There's something else that we need to do. So it's called deep hearing, according to Keshava Swami. So that's his classification, and I think it's very intelligent and very true. So it's not only enough that we sit in lectures and listen what someone is speaking, we have to do something about it. So there are four levels we have to go through in order to really truly grasp what we are hearing. So first we hear, right? And then we contemplate on what we have heard. We try to see it in the world, and we will see how. For example, we will talk about how Krishna is a taste of water. And Krishna says many things, and I have brought... I didn't? Oh, indeed. This book, Krishna's Meditation, which is very good, which talks about how Krishna manifests in this world. So, if you have something like this and you read it, then you hear about it, and mananam would mean like, okay, when I see, I don't know, fire, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he's fire. But he doesn't only say that he's like fire, burning fire, but he says also that he's a fire of digestion. And then when I eat, I can remember Krishna. So these are some things how I contemplate the knowledge that I have heard. How Krishna said how he manifests in this world. That doesn't mean that he's really that thing, but that his energy, he's these energies. And that's why, if we come back to the points that I mentioned at the beginning, how there are three aspects of God: Brahman, energy; Paramatma, supersoul; and Bhagavan, person. Then this fire of digestion, this is one of these energies of the Lord that are mentioned in the scriptures. Then we have Nidhyasanam, how to apply this knowledge in our life. So in the spiritual literatures, we don't only hear about like how God looks like and what he does. We also hear about great devotees, like what did they do? What is the spiritual practice that they practiced so that they can actually understand Krishna? What did they do in their lives? Who did they approach? We said that Krishna advises that we approach spiritual master and so on. So if we hear all these things and we are interested to understand who Krishna is and to see Krishna, we need to apply these things in our life. For example, it is said we should chant. Then we take the japa and we chant. We get up early a little bit in the morning so that when the world is quiet, so that we can chant and then meditate and then purify our hearts. So there are a lot of ways what we can do. I just mentioned the most important one, but you can also come to the temple, serve. You can serve the devotees. You can, I don't know, read the books also, sing kirtans and so on. This all is like application of the spiritual things in your life. And the fourth thing, which is really important, is prayer. So at the beginning of my lecture, I sang, right, this Jai Radha Madhava, which is actually a verse that describes Krishna in Vrindavan. And that was also, in a way, remembering and meditating on Krishna. Then we sang Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is a mantra for purification, but also a prayer. Please, Krishna, engage me in your service. And then we honored the scriptures based on which this lecture is spoken by Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's a prayer, in a way. And then we said 2 more prayers to the spiritual masters, because we always, when we are reading scriptures like this, we have to come into the mood of prayer. Only if we are in the mood of prayer, which means in the mood of humbleness in a way, we are approaching Krishna and then we are asking, please, may this knowledge be revealed in my heart. So, I did something wrong with my slides, but no. So that should be our daily prayer. So my dear Krishna, may this knowledge be revealed in my heart. So that's the way how, if you practice it every day, by hearing and applying and seeing and praying, you will be able to see Krishna. And that's the amazing thing about Bhakti Yoga and any spirituality, actually. But we are talking now about Bhakti Yoga and the books here. So Krishna explains that if you hear this knowledge well, you will begin to see Krishna everywhere. And that's what happens in our spiritual life. But to see Krishna takes time. And I will take this word time and make out of it, I mean, not me, it's Keshava Swami, of course. He's one Swami who I am very much inspired by him, but I took this from him. So he made an acronym from time very intelligently. And then he said that Krishna can be seen in these 4 things. We can perceive him. So first we have to hear, try to apply deep hearing, and then understand that it takes time. So to see Krishna takes time and patience. But we can explain how we can see it. And that's also this process of hearing we will now see. So temple deity. In Sanskrit it is called Archa Vigraha, form of the Lord. So I will read this. So the Lord is worshipable form. The Lord's worshipable form, Archa Vigraha, which is installed in temples by authorized acharyas, is non-different from the original form of the Lord. So for those of you who don't know who these deities are, these are temple deities, which are called in Sanskrit Archa Vigraha. And they're a manifestation of Krishna here in the picture, how he is in the spiritual world. It's not that there are many gods in the Bhakti Yoga process. There is only one God who expands. He's polymorphic. That's how that's the word that describes someone who can expand into many forms. One of the forms that we have here on the altar are Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra Maharani. Jagannath represents Krishna, the one on the picture. Balaram is his brother, and Subhadra is his sister. They also have functions in this world, and that's why they are worshipped here, and in the spiritual world, of course, and that's why they are worshipped here. Next to them are Gauranitai. So another expansion of Krishna is Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who is on our right side, and next to him is Lord Nityananda, who is a representation of Balaram. So it may be a little bit confusing, but there's a reason why they are here, and there's a reason why we worship them. But these same deities, they have been installed by the great devotees, and their presence of God has been invited into them. So they are God, they are non-different. So if you read the scripture, you will find this information, that there is no difference actually between God, who is in the spiritual world, and who is manifested here on the altar. And it's very nicely said. This is maybe, for someone who is for the first time hearing this, might be a little bit difficult to understand, but for those who have practiced Krishna consciousness for some time now, maybe they will understand a little bit. Because as I said, Krishna expands. He's in the spiritual world, he manifests in the material world in certain ways. And he comes also in the material world in the form of avatars. So one of the avatars is Gauranitai, also Krishna is one of them, Balaram. There is Nrsimhadev, Varahadev, and so on. So the deity is a particular incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna can present himself before the worshipper in 5 different manifestations, namely his original form as Krishna, so the one from the picture, which is there very difficult to see. Then his quadruple expansions. These are expansions by which Krishna manifests in the spiritual worlds and creates in the material worlds. His pastime incarnations, which are Vaibhava, so these are incarnations mentioned in the scriptures, which manifest in a certain point of time. And that's why we worship them. And then as Supersoul, or Antaryami, and the Supersoul, as we said, is situated in each and every one of us, of our heart. And the 5th way, the way Krishna is present before us, we are the worshippers, is in the form of the deity, Archa. So I'm just saying this so that you can understand who is actually here and how we are not aware of it. But you can only be aware of it if you hear. And also you can only be aware who are these personalities on the altar if you serve. So that's why we invite all the devotees, please come to the temple, not only on Sunday feast, come on Saturday, Friday, maybe some evenings, do something in the temple. You don't have to be a pujari on the altar. Of course, sometimes we are very lucky that we can be pujaris and that we can serve the deity, that we can offer the food, that we can dress them, put them to sleep, wake them up, and so on. And we can see the reciprocation that they have. So it's not an idol. First of all, it's not an idol because it is written in the scriptures how they should be made. And the scriptures are given by God. That's one thing. And the other thing is, as we said, there are many energies of God. So if God is everywhere, then why can he not be here in the form of the deity? So he can actually, not manifest himself, but be called here to be with us and accept. It is his mercy. Through this way he accepts our service, and by this we get purified. And since we are meditating on God as person, we want to treat him as person, in a personal way, in an attentive way, with love. So that's how you can accomplish it if you come to the temple and serve. So you don't have to be on the altar. You can clean the temple room, you can cook for the Lord, you can, I don't know, dust, you can sing for the Lord, so everything you can do. But you have to try it yourself. It doesn't mean anything when I say it, because you have to experience it, and then you can see, oh yes, I can understand how God is really present in these deities. So, the Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna expands himself into unlimited number of forms, such as Baladev, Rama, Nrsimha, and Varaha, as I mentioned. All these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha worshipped in the temple is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archa Vigraha, one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the service of a devotee by his omnipotent energy. So if we agree that God is omnipotent and that he has omnipotent energies, that means that he can actually accept it by his various energies. So in the form of a deity, he can accept it. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharyas, the holy teachers, and works exactly in the original way of the Lord, by which virtue of Lord omnipotence. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Upanishad, which is one other scripture, and any of the other Shruti mantras or other scriptures, consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by a pure devotee, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanishta Adhikaris. But such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires. So it's a question of faith, of course. But that's why I'm saying, apply the knowledge, you will have the realization, and then you don't need the faith. You don't have to say, I believe, because you know, you have seen, so it's not necessary anymore. And there are many stories in the scriptures, and we don't have time, unfortunately, to explain it, which talk about what the deity did in the life of a devotee. What's his name? The one who witnessed Gopal. Shakshi Gopal, yes. He walked many kilometers to testify some things for his devotees. And when the devotee who approached him and who asked him, like, well, you agreed that you will testify for us, so please can you come to this village so that you can tell other people that this and this happened? And he said, I cannot go to the village, I'm a deity. And then this Brahmana, he was very intelligent, he said, but if you can talk, you can walk. So that's how the deity came to that village and testified. So there are many, many, many stories, beautiful books. So all that can be read. And if you do what these pure devotees did in their lives, if you really surrender to your spiritual life in that way, you can see the same things as they see. So that's the beauty. So this is where we can see God. Every time in the temple, this is his home, and he actually wants us to come here. And he's here for our benefit. He's not like some puffed up king who needs servants. He's here for us to understand who we are, that we are lovers of God, actually, and that we can get purified by this, understand our constitutional position, and then come back home, back to Godhead, into the spiritual world. And this is like a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So this is what we do in our worship of the deity. The second way we can see God is in people and other living entities. So Krishna can act through them. That's one thing. But the other thing is that he's present in each and every one of us as super soul, as we said. And he said, I'm situated in everyone's heart, and I'm directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. And this is a beautiful meditation that you can do. And this is something you can find in this book, Krishna Meditations, which is written by Urmila Devi Dasi and Kamala Sita Devi Dasi. So we are talking about mindfulness a lot, I mean, in the modern world. And these meditations are how to be mindful of God in everyday life. So we said he's situated in everyone. So this is a beautiful meditation. Plants turn towards the sun. Spiders spin webs. Butterflies migrate long distances. In this way, Krishna as the Supersoul guides and inspires all living entities. Awareness of the Supersoul in the heart of all living beings help us to see them as something other than just their bodies or even individual souls. God is there. Each body of each living being is a temple wherein the deity gives guidance according to that soul's receptivity. So we said at the beginning, he gives knowledge, remembrance. With a shining lamp of knowledge, he destroys the ignorance in our hearts. So when we visit a temple made of bricks, wood or stone, we remove our shoes. We bow down our heads to the floor in reverence and offer prayers. Yet everyone we meet is a temple, not only other humans, but animals, insects and plants. Treating others with reverence and care is not just a matter of our relationship with that living being, but also with the best friend and witness who stands beside them, observing and advising with love. If we could see each being standing next to God, universal love and respect would swiftly follow. So for me this is beautiful because it's also like knowledge we receive, and then we should observe the world and see how that is so, what is spoken here, how God is in each and everyone's heart, and we can see how he works through others, and in this way we can see Krishna. And if we see everyone like that, that's the only equality that can exist in the world. Sometimes people talk about equality. I, as a lawyer, can say that there is no equality, legal one maybe, but there is always positive discrimination, if you know what I'm talking about, because you cannot put different people in same situations and expect equality. So that's not even possible in the material world, and so what to say of other aspects of it. So only spiritually there can be an equal vision, and if there is an equal vision and Krishna in the center, and we respect everyone as a temple of God, that's how you can prevent wars, and that's how you can actually bring peace into this world. The third way we can see Krishna is in the material nature. So this is from the scriptures, how the devotee should see everything around him. So devotee should not see anything as being separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ether, fire, air, water, earth and sun and other luminaries, all living beings, the directions, the trees and other plants, the rivers and oceans, whatever a devotee experiences, he should consider to be an expansion of Krishna. Thus, seeing everything that exists within creation as the body of the Supreme Lord Hari, the devotee should offer his sincere respects to the entire expansions of Lord's body. So this is how you can see Krishna, and you can find descriptions in the Bhagavad Gita and books like this that I recommended, and then you can meditate. I will not go because of time through it in details, but for example, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the taste of water, and then you can see in this description, for example, how we can see Krishna in everything, not just the water we drink. For example, our eyes need tears, our nose needs mucus, our ears wax, our tongue saliva, and our skin oil. All come from the water we drink, and the taste or pleasure we experience through our senses is from that water which is Krishna, for example. And it's not only things that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that he is. He says he's of the bodies of water I am ocean, of this and these animals I am lion, shark, and so on. So there are many explanations of it. He also talks about how he's an adventure. So it's not only things, but he's an ability in man, his intelligence of the intelligence, strength of the strong, and so on. So everything that exists in this world, it's connected to Krishna, it comes from him. And the fourth way we can see Krishna is the events of life in our lives. So through practicing spiritual life, we can see that Krishna is actually here, and he is proactively engaging in our lives to help us reawaken our spiritual consciousness. For example, he sends us spiritual master or his devotees, books, prasadam, and some amazing things happen in our life. And therefore we should understand that Krishna is not a distant God, he's a close God. He's in your heart. So at least in that sense, he's very, very close. And it talks about how intimate our relationship is with God. And if you want to see how Krishna manifests in other life, and even in your life, you just go to other devotees and ask them how they came to Bhakti Yoga or spiritual life, and you will see how actually God manifested in their lives. And when you hear from them, you will also consider, well, actually, I have also seen Krishna in my life through this and that. So that is how you can also understand it. And therefore Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor he is ever lost to me. So it's just like if we see him everywhere, then we will always feel this connection. And that's the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita, and that's how we can develop love for Krishna. Because all this that we spoke now should lead us to prema. Prema means love for God. And it is said that people whose eyes are tinged with the salve of love, they can always see Krishna in their hearts. And to finish, I will just read one beautiful thing. I hope you will find it beautiful and inspiring, because for me it's very inspiring and beautiful. And that's how we will end. So, Krishna can only be visible in the heart of a true devotee, which is the only true seat of the state of trance under the influence of devotion. So devotion and spiritual life, it brings us into trance, but the trance of seeing Krishna everywhere, because we developed love for him. When Krishna manifests himself in Vraja, in the spiritual world, both the devotees and not devotees, actually this Vraja that he's talking about is Vraja here in India and Vrindavan. So when he came here 5,000 years ago, both the devotees and not devotees saw him with this very eye, but only devotees cherished him, eternally present in Vraja, as the priceless jewel of their heart. Nowadays, also the devotees see him in Vraja in their hearts, saturated with devotion, although they do not see him with their eyes. The eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. So we can see Krishna in the heart according to the purification of the heart. When the devotion of the practitioner reaches the stage of bhava bhakti, which means we have a feeling close to love for Krishna, the pure eye of that devotee is tinged with the salve of love by the grace of Krishna, which enables him to see Krishna face to face. The phrase in their hearts means Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. The sum and substance of this shloka is, which you can see on the screen, is that the form of Krishna, who is Shyama Sundar, Natavara, the best dancer, Mulidhara, the holder of the fruit, and Tribhanga, triple bending, is not a mental concoction, but is transcendental and is visible with the eye of the soul of the devotee under trance. And how we can get to that phase, I tried to describe. I don't know how successful I was, but I hope it inspired you in some sense. So thank you very much for your attention. I can ask for one question if there is. Yeah, if you have, because now it's prasadam, but if you have, someone has one question, I can take one question. Okay, thank you for your attention. Yes?
You talk about like to find a spiritual leader or teacher or guru.
Yes.
How to find one?
Well, you search. I mean, how to find one is that you pray to Krishna, you start serving, you start chanting, you pray to Krishna, you try to visit holy places, hear from great devotees. There are many swamis and spiritual masters, not only swamis, but people who are in family life also, they can be spiritual masters. So if you find someone who is very inspiring for you, you first hear. And the hearing is all about hearing. So Gaur Govinda Swami says that if you want a spiritual master, you have to come in front of Krishna and cry. for the spiritual master, because actually you want to see Krishna, so you cry for Krishna, you cry for spiritual master. And if you are so sincere, then Krishna will send you a spiritual master. And spiritual master is the only one who can help you actually in the end then to reach Krishna. And only the crying of the soul leads to the spiritual master. And that's my experience. There's no other method. And then you hear, and if you get purified by hearing, you develop a desire, and then your soul cries, and that's how the spiritual master comes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I wish you a pleasant afternoon in the temple, and I don't know what else to say, but thank you. Hare Krishna.
The grace Loka Pavani Mataji ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you very much, Loka Pavani, for describing the art of seeing Krishna everywhere. I hope you liked it. Just wanted to give 2 announcements. Next Saturday, 9th of March, is what we call 40th installation day of our deities, Sri Sri Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra Maharani. So the deities you can see on the right hand side, the 3 forms, they were installed in this temple 40 years ago on 9th of March. And this is a jubilee, and we want to celebrate this very grand, very big, with all of you together. And therefore we invite you all to come next Saturday to this program. We will start around 3:30 with Kirtan. There will be an Abhishek, and we also have some special guests coming, some devotees who were here 40 years ago while the deities were installed, and they are going to share their memories with us. So it is a very unique occasion. So outside in the vitrine you can find the detailed program. So please check it out and come next Saturday. And again, and another program which I want to announce is on the 24th of March. This is a Sunday. This is the appearance day of Sri Sri Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaura Purnima, which we call. You can see him on the left-hand side. And since it is coming on a Sunday, we have scheduled the Sunday program a little differently. So we will not have our usual Sunday program, but we will start as usual at 3 o'clock, but we will have 3 hours of Kirtan with 1 hour of Abhishek from 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock. So from 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock we will have a Kirtan. 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock Abhishek of the Lordship. 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock there will be our Sunday talk and lecture. And then at 8 o'clock in the evening there will be our Sunday feast. Not at 5 o'clock, but